Hey guys, this is Systemshark from WCReplays.com. So continuing in my trend, I'm trying to do a little theme here, and I wanted to continue on with the Undead versus Human matchup for Undeads to kind of find new ways to counter human towers. Now, I'm doing this on a map that some people would probably say that it's more of a Undead map in with the matchup. So humans have kind of a disadvantage on this map to begin with, but it's also a very good map to look at, and this is a really good replay that I've chosen to show the kind of cookie cutter ways that a lot of human players will do this, and the kind of cookie cutter way for Undeads to kind of deal with this. Go ahead and get the replay file synced up at 2 minutes at 1x speed. I got it on one of the observer's point of views, but you can do whichever you'd like. And this was game 3 between clan war between MTW and NOA. So you see a lot of those people actually in the observer slots. So I've talked a little bit too much, I guess. So hopefully we're at the 2 minute mark at 1x speed. If not, as always, go ahead and pause this audio portion of the audio commentary. Get your replay file synced up to the 2 minute mark at 1x speed, and get ready to unpause in 5 seconds. So we're gonna get going here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Unpause. Now, the first thing I want to notice, or you guys should notice, is that this is the most common thing for human players to do on this map, is to fast creep this Goblin Laboratory with their Archmage, Water Elementals, and with their Militia. And although Kai's doing a pretty good job of keeping all his Militia alive, he actually just lost one to a creep now. Again, sorry for the shoutcasting here. I know you guys can see that. You generally want to try not to lose any Militia to creeps because of what's happening right now. The Undead player, Protois, hopefully I'm saying that right, has been scouting all around the map. He scouted with his ghoul, one early ghoul early on there, and found out that he wasn't at the top left position, wasn't at the bottom left position, and found out that he was indeed on the bottom right position now. And he was able to bring his ghoul and his Death Knight in there to do some coil harassing on these low hit point peasants and militia that were used to creep that creep camp. Now, he's going to do a really good job of keeping his ghoul alive. When he gets in a bad situation, he kind of moves back. But he's doing an awesome job at picking off individual peasants. Now, the point to doing this is you're going to notice that he kills off like 5 or 6 peasants throughout this little skirmish here, using that ghoul and using his Rod of Necromancy. But again, the point to all of this is to delay your opponent. Now, it's going to delay his economy. Obviously, humans wanted to, if you don't know this already, humans is a big... his race is big on their economy. So anything you can do to slow down their tech and keep them busy so they can't creep, and keep them busy so they can't secure their economy by getting another, like an early expansion or something like that, is a good thing. So in killing off these peasants, it's going to force Kai, or K, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, to actually create more peasants at his town hall, which is going to delay his tech. And during all this time, you'll see the Undead player's actually already started his tech. He's about, I don't know, 20% into it now, 15-20% into his tech. So in delaying his opponent, that's going to give him now the tech advantage, and in addition to giving him experience for killing these little peasants, and delay more money coming in. So this is going to delay things like towers, it's going to delay things like unit production, it's going to delay his tech, it's going to delay lots of stuff from happening, and it's a really good idea to do this. If you don't already play offensively in the early game as Undead, it's a good idea to do that, and especially this early part. And under the first 4 minutes or so, he can play really offensively and not have to worry about it. Ghouls not necessarily aren't that great versus footmen, which is why you see he's kind of backing off right now. Footmen versus ghouls, footmen generally win, and when you got an Archmage, especially level 2 Archmage with Brilliance Aura that can continually summon these water elementals every time the cooldown's up or close to it, it's kind of a dangerous situation to kind of play in the middle of the field. So you notice he's kind of retreating back towards his base, and that's, you kind of got to gauge where your opponent's at. And in situations like this where both players can kind of anticipate, they know their opponent's level of play is relatively high, they know how to play defensively and move back. Now Protois is doing a great job. He hasn't lost any ghouls yet. A lot of them are really close, into orange and red health, and they just he coils them defensively now. Obviously he's not playing very offensive with his coil at this point. He's trying to save his ghouls so he doesn't give his opponent any more experience, and make it so that he doesn't have to create more ghouls later. It's a really good point to make there. So sorry I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. I'm trying to catch myself up now. So again, playing a little bit defensively. Now the Archmage at this point, this would be a good time for the human player, actually a little bit before this, to actually go in there with his Archmage and Footman to kill off the Acolytes while your opponent's in mid-tech. However, due to that harass, due to kind of keeping him busy in the middle of the map, the human player's harass would be relatively useless at this point, other than him having to recreate some more acolytes, the undead player having to create more acolytes, it's not really going to do too much as far as hurting the gold income, because the tech is already finished now, so he can create more. It's not worth the risk to go in there, and usually the human player ends up using their Scroll of Town Portal, so it's looking really good. Some of the observers are making a point that it looks just like Game 1, so I'm not sure what Game 1 went like, but since we're in Game 3, I'm assuming the human player at least won one of those matches. Secondary hero choice for the undead player is the Pandaren Brewmaster, and I went over this in the last Human Undead commentary I did, the one right before this one featuring the towers. And the reasoning for the Panda is not only is it really good versus lower hit point units like footmen, and really good at picking off units like peons and peasants and militia and stuff like that, it works really good versus towers, which is, the idea of this commentary is actually going to be focusing more on the towers. And I'll go over that in a minute as soon as we see it happening. Now, to counter all those heavy losses of militia and lumber peasants and stuff like that, I've said stuff like that probably like 6 times during this audio commentary, God. Anyway, Kai ended up picking up that Goblin Shredder, and he also has a farm built right next to that Goblin Laboratory, which is a good idea to do as humans, since you can build those anywhere. You can actually, if you didn't already know this, I'm sure most of you already did, so it's probably bad, or kind of an overemphasized tip, that you can use those Goblin Laboratory. You can make purchases from that Goblin Laboratory with just a farm there. So that's the reasoning behind putting that there. It's not there for scouting purposes. It's there for purchasing purposes. Pretty funny. There it actually says welcome on that Goblin Laboratory map. I never noticed that, and it's spelled C-U-M. It's a little dirty for even Blizzard, I think. Temple of Boom. All right. You don't notice the little things unless you're in the middle of an audio commentary, I guess. So, Protois has a skeletal warrior that he had sent out scouting, and sees that Kai is clearing this expansion spot now. So kind of right now, he's seeing what's going on. Eventually that skeleton's going to get picked off, I think, or it's going to run out of its timer. But that skeleton did a lot just being right there. So even giving up that minor amount of experience, he knows, hey, the guy's got a Mountain King. He did see that Mountain King. He might have seen that the Mountain King had ivory towers on him, which is a good blah 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 blah. I don't even know what word I'm trying to think of. Anyway, it allowed him to know that, okay, tower's going to be pulled up at that expansion. The chances are the expansion's going to be there, which is a really good place for this expansion. As the human player, it's the furthest away from the Undead's main base. It's going to be the furthest, other than those islands, for the Undead to actually make it to it. So the Undead player's kind of got a timer going off now in his head. He knows that towers are going to be going up, whether they're either being built really quick to make those scout towers. He knows how long guard towers take, which is I'll go over those build times right now, just in case you guys didn't know. You can look this up on the Battle.net website, look up all the statistics and technical details, so you can kind of have your own timers going off in your head. But Scout Towers take 25 seconds to build, that's if they're not being speed built. Guard Towers take 50 seconds, and so do Arcane. So Guard Towers, obviously, from being upgraded from those Scout Towers. So 75 seconds for a Scout Tower to Guard Tower if he's clicking on it really quick. So you can kind of have that going off in your head right now. So he knows he's got a minute or two before those towers are actually going to be up. And obviously right now he's got some bigger problems to worry about as his Death Knight's getting focused really low hit points. And there we go, some more shoutcasting town portals out at the last moment. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point of this is to not take so many losses at this point and to kind of delay. He's not necessarily doing any delay now. The human player actually should be on the offensive more at this point. Because in order to counter those towers in that expansion, the Undead player is massing some obsidian statues. And we'll go over what he's going to do specifically when it actually happens later on, but he's going to chain morph his obsidian statues into destroyers, which give them full mana, and you got to time it, so you're close to your base. He's not going to morph them like right now, so he's got destroyers in the middle of his base with full mana. He's going to wait until he's closest to his opponent's expansion, until he's close to the target before he